the Battlefield series has always promised two things: huge areas of operation and wanton destruction. Battlefield 6 delivers on both fronts, although the size of some of the maps leaves some to be desired. But it does make some tweaks to environment damage in hopes of enhancing the gameplay experience by focusing on destruction with tactical advantages rather than just destruction for the sake of destruction, although I have to admit I did prefer that. Battlefield 6 also addresses my biggest complaint with Battlefield 2042, which was the lack of a single-player campaign. The campaign in Battlefield 6 is definitely the game's weakest link, and no one is going to be wowed by a gripping narrative or engaging character development here, but I wouldn't say the campaign is outright bad. As a major AAA game that commands both a premium price tag and is also infested with microtransactions, one would expect that some of that money would be put into making the game a graphical showcase that performs well. I mean, money obviously didn't go to hiring talented scriptwriters. Fortunately, it is my pleasure to report that DICE, okay, technically Battlefield Studios, but whatever, it's basically DICE and Friends. They have once again managed to pull off a game with impressive visuals and solid performance. On PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, you can choose between a fidelity mode at 1440p with a 60 frames per second target, or a performance mode at 1280p with a frame rate of up to 90 FPS, although it will probably range more in the 70 to 80 area. PS5 Pro is definitely the best way to play the game on console, with a 2160p resolution with 60 frames per second in performance, and fidelity giving 1620p with the same 90 frames per second theoretically. Series S, being the inferior good enough, I guess, console of the generation, only has a single mode that runs at 1080p and 60 frames per second. PC players, obviously, have a lot more possible resolutions and frame rates, depending on their hardware specifications, but the game does ship with a 2160p, 144 frame per second preset for those whose hardware can handle it. Visually, this is definitely the best looking Battlefield yet. Battlefield 2042 looked fantastic, but this game definitely takes better advantage of this generation's hardware, and that makes sense considering that EA finally dropped support for last-gen hardware. The character models in the campaign cutscenes especially look fantastic. With richly detailed environments, well-designed particle effects, and environments that actually show the damage they receive from battle, Battlefield 6 is definitely an impressive graphical achievement. I haven't played Call of Duty Black Ops 7 yet to compare personally, although from what I've seen, it does not hold up to Battlefield 6, but Battlefield 6 definitely looks better than Black Ops 6, and I thought Black Ops 6 was gorgeous. The single player is definitely the worst element of the game, so let's go ahead and discuss that. Long story short, it's fine. It's a solid 6 or 7 out of 10 war game. It's generic, but it works. The missions themselves are fun to play, and you've got a decent variety of objectives to accomplish, but they do still feel kinda samey after a while. And the campaign is what I would consider to be a good length, neither leaving you thirsting for more, nor overstaying its welcome. The problem I have is the missed potential. The campaign story was almost awesome. You play as a squad of US Marines in a war against a mercenary company called Pax Armada that has managed to fracture the NATO alliance and basically is pursuing world domination. Your primary mission is to square off against a Scottish lunatic highly ranked in Pax Armada named Kincaid and try to foil his terrorist-esque attack plans. There's the usual shady CIA, NSA shenanigans, and those are pretty much ubiquitous with modern shooters, and honestly, that's really where the campaign lost me. I love political intrigue in games, but it was just not done well here. The NATO versus Pax Armada war, which is not terribly believable in my opinion, I mean, a private mercenary company putting the United States Armed Forces on the back foot? Yeah, right. It was a pretty cool premise that I did really get into. Then they had to go and throw CIA spookery into it. Normally, I like CIA spookery. I'm a big fan of the Black Ops sub-series of Call of Duty, for example. But it was just badly executed here. In the campaign's last mission, you feel like the curtain is finally about to rise and reveal the interconnected webs of corruption, backroom deals and betrayals in the US government that link everything together, and then the game just ends. Like, that last little bit definitely implies a lot of the connection, and the CIA's role is explained at the end, albeit kind of clumsily in a tell, don't show kind of way, which is just bad writing. But regardless, it's just an overall extremely underwhelming end. There's no narrative resolution, no satisfying showdown, no valiant last stand. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, but I doubt we'll ever see a direct continuation, considering how lackluster the response to the campaign has been. Multiplayer is, even more than in Call of Duty, the bread and butter of Battlefield, and that's a lot of fun. It feels like there's a bit of work they can do to improve balance. A lot of my matches just ended up being one side slaughtering the other constantly, but overall I did enjoy my time with it. I don't like that they seem to have gotten rid of bot XP, or at least in large part, and in order to host a private server with bots, you have to have at least 8 human players. That sucks, because that was my favorite thing in 2042. But Portal, fortunately, does make a return, even if terribly nerfed. And that's good, because that's both a fan favorite, and it was my personal favorite part of 2042, as well as the standard array of multiplayer game types. Because God forbid there be one singular company that doesn't try to jump on this godforsaken bandwagon, EA has also rolled out Battlefield RedSec, their free-to-play battle royale for the peasants and plebeians out there. The map and weapon variety in Battlefield 6 does feel a little bit limited at the moment, but EA improved Battlefield 2042 and added a lot of content over the course of its commercial lifespan, so I'm confident that similar improvements and additions will come to Battlefield 6 over time. I may hate live service games with every fiber of my being for encouraging companies to launch barely complete games with the promise of future fixes, but at least it does guarantee that content will be added as the game goes on. Battlefield 6 feels, in a lot of ways, kind of like a return to form. I personally love Battlefield's experimentation in the past several titles, with Battlefield 1 taking us to the trenches of World War I, Battlefield 5 returning us to the epic battles of World War II, and Battlefield 2042 taking us into a future far enough ahead to feel advanced, but close enough to present day still to feel believable. That said, Battlefield did seem to hit its mainstream stride with its modern set games, especially Battlefield 3. And that setting definitely makes Battlefield 6 feel safe and familiar. I'd love to see the series return to World War I. Battlefield 1 is probably my favorite of the series after the original 1942. And I'd love to see them revisit Cold War conflicts like Vietnam or maybe even Korea. That said, though, I'm content with Battlefield 6. I'm pissed about the bot setup here, but I'm content with the game overall. The campaign is definitely a letdown, and the multiplayer doesn't revolutionize the series or break new ground in the genre, but it is a solidly good time, even if a step back from 2042 in a lot of ways. My rating for Battlefield 6 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC is a B.